Okay, I've had about enough of this. I've had about enough. Okay, every single one of my followers is saying, Josh, where's the shampoo review? Come on, shampoo, 1975, Hal Ashby. I'm asking for it. Where is it? We're going to bum rush you at the grocery store if you don't post a review of Hal Ashby's 1975 motion picture Shampoo. So okay, fine. You're in charge. You're the boss, I guess. Okay, you're the boss. So we're talking about Shampoo today. Shampoo, 1975, directed by Hal Ashby. That was his fourth motion picture in a directorial role. And I know you're going, okay, oh, Josh, I've heard of shampoo. Yeah, I've heard of lathering. I've heard of rinsing and repeating. I've heard of, Head and Shoulders. I've heard of freakin' Degree. I've heard of Suave. I've heard of, some other oil of Olay. I've heard of many, many different types of shampoo. But, okay, so you're telling me there's a movie now of Shampoo? Yeah, there's a movie now of Shampoo. And this movie is remarkably good. Oh my goodness gracious. Now, it starts out as... So let me tell you this. The opening scene is just pure blackness, just darkness, and opening credit titles in white font. And you hear the sounds of a couple making love. And yes, the male voice you hear is indeed Warren Beatty. I know you're all kind of going, okay, I've heard this sound before of a male making love. I think that's Warren Beatty from 1975 when he was kind of in his like 30s or 40s. I didn't really look it up beforehand, but I think that was when he was in his maybe 30s, maybe 40s. He wasn't in his 50s. He was still a hunky, sexy heartthrob at the top of his game. He was still doing some of the biggest films of his entire life, and he co-wrote this thing. He co-wrote Shampoo and was going to star in it. Now, this would be like Brad Pitt wanting to co-write a movie. This would be like Leonardo DiCaprio wanting to co-write a movie and star in it. This would be like Dwayne, The Rock, John Man, or whatever his name is, wanting to, being like, hey, I've written a script for Jumanji 3, I want to be in it. And then the studio would be like, okay, The Rock, Dwayne, The Rock, John Man, okay, cool. We're gonna go ahead and take a chance on this. We're gonna go ahead and believe in you, that you can kind of do something sort of artistic and different. So anyway, and I'll just move that notification away. What Warren Beatty did here, in tandem with Hal Ashby, a sort of director who had proven his salt, had sort of proven his worth to some degree and was sort of on the rise and had his own distinct voice. What Warren Beatty did was choose to play a sort of kind of a just naive, innocent, sort of young man who, yeah, he can cut hair. He can cut gals' hair like nothing else. And he sleeps with absolutely all of them. If there's if there's a female in this movie and Warren Beatty as George, the character, hasn't slept with him, there isn't one. And so that's a very good way to sort of phrase a sentence. That's sort of a good way to grammatically structure a sentence, is to say something like that. But this thing, okay, it could be taken on the surface as this sort of just sexy, trashy, fly-by-night, just another sort of picture with a big star in it. Because on the surface, yeah, it's just a bunch of people fucking each other. That's basically what it is on the surface. And it is that. And yet, so what this movie does, which is something so wonderful and beautiful, and I love it when this happens, is that it sort of gives you the first hour, which is one thing, and then in the second hour, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes far more comedic, far more bizarre, far more poignant in its political commentary, that this was happening just a couple of years after Richard Nixon was impeached, coming just a few years after Watergate, coming just a few years after Vietnam, or well, the repercussions of Vietnam and the literal war were still happening. And this would be, what I love about this is that Hal Ashby, this movie is a giant fuck you to American culture at the time, the sort of just shallow quality of American society, how there was rampant promiscuity and rampant infidelity, and whether or not that's morally right or wrong, it's just like, this is what we do. We're unhappy. This movie is a portrayal of how everyone is kind of unsatisfied with what they have, and so they seek pleasure and joy and satisfaction and fulfillment from other sources. And the symbolism, that's a good way to pronounce that, Josh. The symbolism in this movie, there are mirrors everywhere, because every character almost just about is intertwined with another. Every character is fucking another character. Every person you encounter has this sort of double life, and there are mirrors all over this thing, and constantly these long, lingering shots of people looking in the mirror. Of course, it's many shots in a hair salon, in a beauty salon, as Warren Beatty is cutting hair, but other ones besides, where it's just going, nobody here in this film is who they seem. Nobody is who they say they are. Nobody is trustworthy. Nobody is has sort of moral uprightness or whatever it is. And there is such pronounced, intense Nixon propaganda all over this thing. So many scenes have just Nixon all over it, in scenarios and in places where it should not be. Giant photos of Richard Nixon. And the sort of subtle, or maybe not so subtle, thing with this movie is that all the bad people, the antagonists, I mean, it's sort of ambiguous as it is. It's not a very clear-cut, like, good and bad guy, not a clear-cut arc. But all the bad people love Nixon. And in these insane scenarios, they're watching televisions, or they're at these sort of like high-class political dinners with fundraising events, and they're all, this was set in a time when Nixon was still president, and everyone is sort of admiring him, and not everyone, the bad people, are sort of admiring this crook and this liar. And it just made me think, okay, could anyone even today make a film in such a way about Trump? Is society even willing to handle a movie that would be that direct and that explicit, or would it just seem too hokey or too over the top, or too I don't know. It's just interesting. I spend the time explaining all that to say that I love that Hal Ashby was just like, Nixon, Vietnam, fuck off. You are inherently a crook. You're inherently a disgusting person. And I'm going to take the sort of the playing ground of like a sexy drama that seems kind of surfacey, and I'm going to use this as a platform to talk about what an idiot you are, Nixon, and to talk about how this was the America of your time. This is just an incredibly smart movie. It's smarter than it gets credit for. And Hal Ashby was a clever son of a bitch. He would not just make something like this lightly, So very much worth your time, Shampoo. It's on the Criterion channel right now. And other places, I don't know. I didn't look, man. I'm not I'm not Mr. Google over here. So anyway, great film, wonderful. Goldie Hawn as a young lady, Carrie Fisher from the Stars War place, the Stars War show, whatever that is, kind of thing. This was her first theatrical debut. Just wonderful, just wonderful. And boy, I don't know what to say else about that. Okay, so cool.